You met Atticus this morning, and he looked at you like
all the boys.
Such a smile on his face, like he saw a boy mom, and you're the ultimate boy mom. You have 3 kids under 6.
Yes.
3 boys under 6.
Yep.
Unreal. I mean, I told you earlier today, I think about you constantly because you're a single mom to 3 boys, and I'm not a single mom. I have a supportive husband to 1 child, and I just constantly think single moms are the angels of the world, superhuman. So tell us what that's like, and then we can get into everything else.
Being a boy mom, for one, very loud.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I don't know if Atticus has, we talked a little bit about that independence as the first child, but it's like, I don't know. It's so fun. It is so fun waking up and having the activity. And I always knew that I wanted a full house. So that looks different now than what I thought it was going to look like. But it's still, the energy is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And yeah, no, I feel you. It's loud. Atticus is loud. He's a Sagittarius. He's a fire sign. And loud is the vibe for sure.
Yeah.
And then your boys are, I know that you have a Libra, your youngest son, right?
Yeah, I have 2 October babies, but so I have almost 1 of each, I think.
Libra, Scorpio, right?
Isaac is an Aries.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Libra, Scorpio.
Yeah.
And Maddox is my Scorpio.
Oh.
My middle guy.
And do they fit their signs?
They do.
They do. Yeah.
To what I
Yeah,
to the
what
extent
you
that
know.
I know of that.
Yeah. And what I love about Rowan is that he was born on the anniversary of your dad's passing, right?
Yeah, he's my angel baby.
Yeah. Tell us that story.
Pandemic life was really wild. I was going through, I'd already filed for divorce in May of 2020, and then he was born in October, and that was my due date also. It had changed, which was, you go in for blood work in the beginning or whatever. And
it's rare for a kid to be born on their actual due date.
Yep. And so I was at my old house, and I had connected with this girl on Instagram, actually, who was going to move from Chicago to St. Louis and looking for like a nanny position. And we had bonded over her mom's passing, which is why she followed me, and I'm not so great about the DMs anymore, but at the time I was. And so, but then COVID hit, and I was like, I'm sorry, I won't meet up with you, because she was going to come visit with her sister. And I said, I'm sorry, I won't see you. And then things started to settle down a little bit, and I needed help. And my friend who I lived with during the pandemic, because I left my house before I had Rowan, and then as his arrival, came closer, I was like, I need to go back home. Can't have a newborn and 2 other kids running around this lady's house. So I reached back out to Miranda, and I was like, I'm kind of looking for like an au pair situation. And the house I lived in had a 3rd floor, and it wasn't finished or perfect, but she's one of 4. She has 3 siblings and all girls, and so it just, I don't know, it worked. But I went to bed that night and then woke up at right after midnight, went into labor, and I ran upstairs, and I'm so grateful she was there to be at the house for Isaac and Maddox. And I just said, okay, I'm gonna go. I got in my car and I drove to the hospital. And then one of my best friends from St. Louis had just had her 3rd baby, also during COVID. And her and another friend of mine were like, okay, so who's going to be in the room with you? And I was like, no one. I don't know. I had it set in my mind that I was going to have him by myself, and naturally, just because I don't really know, I just felt like it was something that I wanted to do or had to do. But then I got there, and Molly, she was like, I just want to know, when you're there. And then she was like, okay, you sure you want to do it by yourself? And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, actually, I would like someone with me. Yeah.
So she came, and honestly, having a baby with a friend and another mom was probably one of the most beautiful, if not the most, I will say it was the best birth experience I've had out of all 3.
Wow. Oh my God.
And it was just fun and easy. And as women too, we know how to support each other in those ways, maternally also. And
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about when my husband told me to just relax when I was 8.5 centimeters dilated and Atticus was being born in the car. It would be nice to have that maternal instinct around with a female friend, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no, Molly was like, I made it to 8 centimeters with no drugs. And she looked at me and she was like, do you want to enjoy this or not? And I was like, okay.
That is wise words spoken.
But she just, I think, also knowing everything, like, she's like, you don't need to be doing that right now.
You've had been battling in other ways for far too long. And then it hit you like, he's born on the anniversary of my dad's passing. And that is the way that it was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. That's crazy because decades are so powerful too.
Yeah.
I mean, numbers in general. Like, I see how your dad was there and orchestrating that from above. And I know that you were really close to your dad. So that is so special.
I do believe, like, that he's been a protector of mine for a lot of things. Just
absolutely.
Things I don't want to admit to, but, you know, like doing drugs and drunk driving in college and, like, things that I'm really eat me alive at night in that way. And just now being a mom, like, I'm like, these kids are never leaving my...
I know.
Like, now it's actually easy. Like, it's hard, but it's hard in other ways. Once they get older and that independence comes, that's going to be scary.
Yeah.
And then knowing all the... I remember when I had Isaac, I called my mom sobbing, and I was like, I'm so sorry for putting, you know, just not answering my phone and not texting back and lying to her about what party I was at. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's just really
gives you
unsettling to
perspective.
think about.
Like you, I had such wild years, and I think about it all the time now. Like, by the grace of God, some of the things that I was doing, I lived through. Like, just wild in the car with drunk drivers, doing drugs in somebody's bathroom, a friend of a friend of a friend. And
like, you don't even know where you are.
Drinking Everclear out of a bathtub. And now I haven't had alcohol in 5 years.
Wow.
It's just like, we change so much. And being moms, yes, it puts everything into perspective. It's like, you know how crazy all that shit is. And I can only hope and believe times are changing, and, like, generationally things are going to be a little different. I feel like even with alcohol, it's just a different conversation now.
Yeah, I feel like what's happening right now is really cool.
Yeah.
With a lot of people cutting it out and not being attracted to it and understanding that it's not, you know, it is really, there's a lot of glamour put on it and it's not. Yeah,
and binge drinking was so normalized when we were in college and high school, at least where I was. It was like everybody does it, so it can't be that bad for you.
Right, that's where the fun is.
People talk about the fact that it is bad for you, so times are changing. But I do want to back up because you said so many interesting things there about the pandemic and living with your friend and almost giving birth to Rowan on your own. Let's back up and talk about your marriage and separating from your ex and how you became a single mom. Because I know that we have a lot of fans of yours here, so we're going to talk about the journey with only the things that you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, and I've told you this earlier, like, I have a lot to share, and I want to share certain details, but to me, I know for how I want to do that is going to be in written form, and that's just what feels right and authentic to me.
And you're such a good writer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know where to start. Well, it's hard, as we talked about in the car, like, no one here has 8 hours for this
I know.
story.
Well, we do. No, just kidding.
But yeah, I guess SparkNote's version is my marriage was very toxic and unhealthy, and just a lot of unsettling things happening at the end, and I was kind of like, something has to change, and so I think mentally I was already like, you know, there has to be some sort of separation and some growth to be had. And, you know, when you are with someone and they tell you, oh, it's one more job, or it's just one more thing, or whatever, you want to believe that, and you can hold on to that for only so long. And for me, it got to the point of like, okay, well, I need like action now, because I've been really, you know, we had a fixer-upper, and I was at home with the kids and the dogs, and was just
2 boys, 3 huge
like,
dogs.
3 massive dogs, 2 boys at the time, and now pregnant, and we were just not, I know, intuitive is a tricky word, I think, because especially like when I write something and someone will comment and be like, well, what's that feeling? And I am so intuitive, and so, but that was the first time I really leaned into it and was like, I don't know what's gonna change, but something has to change. But also setting those boundaries are hard. So I think in my head I was already like, we have to, you know, separate, or something has to happen. And then I found some paperwork that was really disappointing, and just pulled teeth of whatever, and it was pretty, I was like, this is a no.
Mm-hmm. And it was
so, and yeah.
So it was quick for you after that.
It was quick, yep. I filed in May, and then, you know, there's a lot of that, like, I think if we're going to get into the whole, like, I do believe that people can go through really, really, really awful and sickening things and maybe rebuild, or start over. For me, I was like, because there was so much like, yeah, or like whatever, I was like, I don't know, just action. Just if this is what you're saying, then in 365 days, this is the person that you say you're gonna, if the follow through is there and you're still gonna be kind and you're sorry and all of this is gonna change behaviorally and whatever, then we can have the conversation 365 days from now. But I'm not gonna take the short term, I'm sorry, no, I promise, this and that.
Right.
And just roll with it.
Yeah.
Like, that was just, I don't know.
And because it seems from what I know, too, that you had already had these inklings for a long time, that things were not totally right, or you were not feeling completely happy. And I remember you would post about it, too. Like, for the fans of yours who are here listening, I remember your super vulnerable posts talking about our marriage is not the best right now, but we're trying to make it work. And I think at the time that was really inspiring to people too, because people are not often that honest.
Yeah, well, that was stemming from that sort of like, you know, and often, and now where I am in my current life, which is all I really care about and I'm so grateful for. But these conversations of relationships of like, you should never have to wonder, or me feeling like, oh, why haven't I, there's no reason or excuse for not communicating or like dropping off the map, or like you cannot communicate with your wife when she's at home with the kids, and like you just can't.
No, definitely not.
And so if that feels wrong, if anything, and this goes for relationships without kids too, but the partner, like the person you're with, they should want you should want each other to feel, you know, in the know.
Yeah, of course.
And now I have, like, I love sharing my location. It's like, I don't care.
Right, exactly.
Ask me.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot too for me, where I was always like, nothing ever checked out.
Well, you didn't know where he was, or weren't hearing back from him, and you're home with your kids, his kids
also,
as well.
Work. Like,
right.
Okay, you're working, okay, but then, I don't know, getting answers that are straightforward goes a really long way in life.
Of course.
And you shouldn't ever have to, like, you should not have to pull teeth. If you're pulling teeth, there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a feeling that you shouldn't have to have when you're with your husband. I mean, when you're married to someone, it's just a feeling that you should feel the trust. And it feels like that trust was broken or it wasn't fully there.
Well, yeah, like, you should feel the trust. I think it's interesting how we, or whoever, you allow for these excuses in relationships just because it's the relationship. But if I was, like, trying to get coffee with you all the time or something and you were always lying about where you were, like, I don't want to be your friend anymore.
Yeah.
And it would be easy to be like, okay, like, they're not a good, but for some reason, and there's so many factors, whether you're living with them or, there's a sexual relationship, like that, all of those factors matter and contribute to that. And that's, why it's hard to leave
right. And having kids together.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, when it was ending and the whole argument of, like, it's better for them if we stay together. And it's like, I actually had so many friends from camp, and I went to 3 different high schools, and just people in my personal life be like, I'm so glad my parents got divorced.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they were not suited for each other. And it's hard, and, I'll never know what that's like because my parents didn't get divorced, but they did separate. And I did see that my mom was doing everything she could to kind of hold it together, and my dad was an alcoholic and, just not making great choices. And I felt that split, and I'm still unpacking a lot of emotional baggage from, how those relationships are, but or how they were, but I never had that, like, oh, my parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, my heart breaks for them in that way, but it is better for them to have me being this mom than the mom at home who was just, I had postpartum with Maddox. And that was actually during that time, towards the end, where I was just like, okay, I can't do this and that. No,
it's too much. So, at some point, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And they're so lucky to have you now. I mean, I was just telling you, like, you are so strong. You radiate just the best mom vibes. You take incredible care of them. You provide for them. And you're also going to show them what healthy relationships look like because you didn't stay in something that was no longer a match.
Yeah.
So ultimately, yes, they're lucky. And I, too, will never know what it's like to have parents that are divorced. But everything comes with its challenges, is what I realized.
Yeah.
Every type of childhood. I had an amazing childhood, and now I'm revisiting all of these childhood traumas.
Yeah.
And, like, you're going to do your best. Keep doing your best to make sure that these boys have the best childhood that they can, which is already what you're doing. So I'm curious to hear, once you had Rowan in October 18th, right? I'm a dates person.
That's good.
Yes. And, well, I'm also a Libra, so was very happy when he was born, like, right around my birthday. October 18th, you had Rowan. Now you have 3 boys at home. Sounds like you had an au pair of some kind, but you didn't have a partner.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking, and all the moms who are listening can understand this feeling, as someone who had a baby last year. And I did have support, and I didn't have other kids at home. And it was still so hard. Like, how did you do that? What did your day-to-day life look like? Were you enjoying it? Was it challenging?
I'm trying to think. It feels like forever ago.
Did you black it out? Because we also do that sometimes.
Well, I think it was just such a busy season, and Miranda, I mean, now she's just like a sister to me, and she did end up leaving shortly after that. But that overlap was really wonderful. No one's ever going to replace, I don't know if I believe in, like, I didn't have a partner, but I had this wonderful, loving, supportive woman who signed up to come live in this person's house in St. Louis. And it's not like the house was like, it needed work. And it's not like I walked her into like a 5-star suite at a hotel, you know? And, So no, I mean, I didn't have a partner in that way, but I do believe if you intuitively can make decisions for yourself that bring you to that next step, those people come and they look different. And the key to that is just not getting discouraged, because I did have moments of like, oh my God, like I'm totally fucked, or, you know, no one, like, this is it. Like, this is the hand I was dealt. But I think, I forget your question now.
It was, what was that time like?
Yeah, well, just chaotic. And I think that time for me was just focusing on Rowan, and I think things started to change a little bit in the world, but when did I have him?
Was it 2020?
It was 2020, yeah. So then so then I was home, and then it was really just focusing on them and slowly but surely like crawling through this divorce. And it was just didn't go, it was just a nightmare.
A nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And not even in terms of like, there was nothing to fight over at that point because of how things had unfolded and decisions that were made that I didn't really know about, and I didn't care. I just wanted it to be done. But it's a brutal, it's pretty torturous, you know, especially when you have kids with someone and then you're like, oh, this is who you are, or like,
yeah.
I don't even mean that in a mean way against him. I just mean that in terms of you grow apart, you can really grow apart from someone, and it's shocking when you don't see that coming. And then you have to navigate through it while you're raising babies. And
the stakes are high because you've got babies running around, and they need their mom and their dad. Yeah, it's
at
a
that
lot.
point, though, I had already, I'm very social, and I love people, and I love to make friendships.
Yes.
And so for me, that was very much of a blossoming stage, I feel like, because I was at home with these kids and the dogs for so long, and then anytime, you know, we had family moments together, jumped on those. But it can be motherhood can be very isolating in that way, where like if you don't have, like with Maddox and Isaac, I wasn't ever hanging out with my friends. I didn't live where I live now, so I wasn't close to them. You know, you're not able to just work on those relationships. It takes work. So you're in mom mode, you're at home. And I think that's why I started my Instagram account, actually, was because he was gone all the time. I had just had Isaac, and I was living in a city that the friends I had were like party friends from college. And so I wanted to connect. And this girl from my camp was like, dude, you should just do food on Instagram, or like, you're passionate about this, and sent me some accounts. And so that was my beginning of really networking outside of my home life, in a sense. And it was virtual for a while, but motherhood is isolating in that way. And it's hard to make mom friends. It's hard to find the people that you align with and agree with in terms of like morals or how you're going to raise your kids, you know?
It is hard. It's one of the hardest things, honestly, about becoming a mom. And I was going to say, it kind of reminds me similar to Jeanette, who was on this podcast recently talking about her separation and the community that she has now. I feel like I've seen the same flourish with you, and we would never wish divorce upon you at all, but to see you now in this community of friends, and I follow you so closely, so I see what you're doing on the weekends and stuff, and you're always with this big group of friends, and it just makes me so happy, because I do feel like it's coming out of that isolation, which it can feel when you're a new mom, and especially going through relationship struggles. And it sounds so cliche, but for lack of a better term, everything happens for a reason. And here you are, and you're only building a better and better life for yourself and your family. And something else I was going to say about you in particular, which we should totally transition into talking about, is you've really made a lot of close friends through Instagram, and you're really good at it. Like we were talking about our mutual friend, Olivia Nicita, who's been on this podcast. There's so many close girlfriends that you have that are all bloggers and Instagrammers. And I feel like that really did become your community. And at first virtual and then like real life. So talk about that for all the people out there who, you know, are making friends online and to know like it's a good way to meet people.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the accounts that I gravitated towards, I just felt, again, intuitively like some sort of, or like I followed you because of, I think Jeanette or whoever I was following, I was like, oh, this is another California person. But something you did resonated with me. And so then I was like connected in that way. But I believe in my soul that what's that statement? Like, make deep connections, not deep attachments. Like,
I love that.
Deep connections will unfold on their own, and they just happen. And you don't have to. You can just feel when something is not aligning. Yeah. And so I felt like Jeanette, I know I was just like responding to her stuff and just loved what she posted, and so then that kind of turned into, I came out here with my family. And I was like, do you want to meet up or like get together? And then that was that. And then like same thing with you. And Olivia and we bonded hardcore over this blueberry crisp I made or something. And she was like, I'm going to make that. And then I remember like our first conversation, I was sitting on my couch. I just put Isaac to bed, or I don't know what time period this was, but we were DMing. And then we exchanged numbers. And then like that went to the whole next level. And I don't know. Something might be wrong with me though, because I remember my mom tells a story of, she took me to a McDonald's when I was, I don't know how old, and I got this girl's number on a napkin.
No way.
To have a play date with her.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, Mom, I want to play with this girl.
So friendly and social. It's very Gemini of you. We were talking about this in the car, but Geminis are talkative, friendly, expressive. You guys just click with people, and it's a good way to be.
I feel very grateful I actually feel bad sometimes because I wish I could give more. There's so many people, especially in St. Louis, that I've made friendships with, and I wish I could see them all the time. And life gets so busy.
I know. Well, especially when you have 3 kids and you're working. But like you said, and that quote is going to stick with me, deep connections versus deep attachments, people get it. When you're deeply connected to someone, it's not this kind of like attachment style where it's like you have to see each other all the time or talk all the time. You know, you're still close and the person's not mad at you, and like everybody has so much going on. Yeah,
that's I had a conversation with a friend recently about that, sort of about how, and I did this for a long time, and I think it's sort of a response from different traumatic things that have happened, but you know, always thinking someone's mad at you or like
I have
because
that too.
Of that response. I mean, I have that, but I've learned so much, especially lately, to not lean into that because you're actually making it about you in that moment.
Yeah.
Which, and I don't mean that in a negative way,
right.
But you can really cause yourself to spiral from doing that.
100%.
And it's so not worth your time.
I agree. And it goes back to the 4 agreements. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but one of the main agreements is like, don't take things so personally. And it's more eloquently spoken than that. But it's like, it's literally not about you. And to think that it's about you is so egotistical. But as humans, that's what we do. We have egos, and we only know things from our own point of view and like from our own head. So of course we think it's about us, but then when you zoom out, it's really not. Yeah. And I've healed from that a lot in the last year, I would say, to realize it's not about me. And yes, you can drift from people, and yes, sometimes people are truly just not there for you, and you can accept that too, and like, no, maybe, you know, it's time to part ways. But most of the time, everybody's just doing the best that they can. Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Also, I have to remind myself all the time, and we talked about this a little bit too creatively and with work right now, but like fixating on that kind of stuff does nothing for you. Everyone's going to bed thinking about their own shit. Totally. You can fixate on it and then you'll spiral. but I reposted this thing on Instagram recently, which I loved, which was don't spiral. And it's like
Evolve.
this spiral, evolve.
I
and
love
then it
that
goes
one.
upward.
I have
and
that saved.
yes,
Yeah.
the artist, I'll try to think of who it is. I think her Instagram is called By Ritual Heart or something. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. But anyways, I reposted it, and then so many people reposted it that I'm like, okay, this is resonating with a lot of people. We all spiral. We're all human.
Visualizing that too does a lot for you.
The visual of it, which I guess I'll repost it when this episode comes out so people can see what I'm talking about. But it's like a full spiral, like the spiral emoji. But then it turns into this like really powerful like a tornado.
Yeah.
Upwards. Where you're going up.
Yeah.
Going up and away. And that helped me a lot when I was struggling with a spiral.
Those on, like, I know social media can be really intoxicating in a lot of ways, and maybe that wasn't the right word, but consuming, it can be intoxicating. It can be in a negative way.
Yeah, it's addicting is the thing.
But a lot of what gets shared is sometimes all you need to hear. Yeah. And that's kind of how this all happens.
It is.
Like someone just shares something and that's the pull.
It connects. And you have such, I mean, we were talking about this before too, but like your Instagram, I was telling you there's always going to be an audience for the black and white photos and the beautiful words that you share that belong in books and poetry books and memoirs and all that kind of stuff. Because it might not be the algorithm's favorite at this point, which I think you and I both, realize. But who cares? Because there's always going to be an audience for it. I feel like that's what people need. That's like real human connection rather than just another reel making a recipe. And there's nothing wrong with that stuff either.
Right.
But everybody has their medicine. So I want to talk about that. But before I do, I also just wanted to talk about, because something that I admire in you so much is you are hustling for your family. You're working multiple jobs, and we can get into like what you're doing to provide for your 3 young kids. And I think about you because I'm like, if she's not dying of overwhelm, then I guess I'll be fine. I'll be fine in my life over here. So tell us what you're doing, like work-wise.
So I still have I shouldn't say still, I have partnerships on Instagram and brands that I love to work with or just have used and liked, and then that relationship comes later, which I love because I think I know people know that about me, that I'm not going to sell out. Like,
totally.
I feel grateful to be able to even work with the brands that I do, and I genuinely love them and use them. I could probably be better about like talking about it,
I know.
I just feel like, especially when something's a staple in my day and we're running out the door, you don't
always film it. Yeah. Well, you have a lot going on. It's understandable.
Partnerships on Instagram, and then I have a brand called Handle with Care from a tattoo on my hand. And so I've made some merch with that, and I'm trying to transition more into selling writing.
Like prints?
Prints, yep. I've done 4 now, I think.
I have one.
You do have one?
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Thank you. So prints, and I would just want to do that more. I just have to be more consistent.
Consistency for air signs is impossible.
Well, good. That makes me feel much less alone.
No, you're not alone. That's why I was hounding you to see your full chart.
Yeah, I'll get it to you. I'll send you an email tomorrow.
I am that girl. I'm like, how many air signs do you have? Just because we have that in common for sure.
Yeah, it's tricky. And then now I'm hosting at a restaurant in my town in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's amazing.
3 to 4 nights a week. So that's actually been really teaching me a lot.
Yeah. Like what?
Well, especially going from being at home with kids to being around people and interacting with people, and not that I don't interact with people, but in that way, and kind of like rearranging pieces. It's a puzzle piece. It's a puzzle, that job, you know, because
it's super social.
Yeah, and I love what it's taught me in terms of perspective, where, you know, when you sit down in a restaurant, you're not like counting the clock. Like, you're not thinking about how long it takes you to eat and how many reservations or tables or whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of rearranging that, and then I just, again, loving people. Like, I love everyone that I work with, and I've really enjoyed getting to know those people and just feel grateful for more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. It's fun to do new things.
It is fun to do new things. I'm proud of you, and I could see how that would just give a whole different perspective to do a job like that. And I think we see people on Instagram, and especially because you do have partnerships and relationships with brands and you have this big audience, people then think, well, that they don't see the whole picture. But with you, I do feel like there's a whole picture going on there, and it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am overwhelmed.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the overwhelm?
But,
like, I'm thinking, not to cut you off, I'm thinking of all the people who are listening who might also be single mothers, or even if they're not, dealing with that type of overwhelm and just juggling it all. What are your tips?
Oh, man. Well, single mom or not, I think my most overwhelming feeling always is like, am I doing this? Like, am I doing this right?
Mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's really scary.
Terrifying.
I question that a lot. Like, I know I'm a good mom, but you can read all the books, but there's no handbook for you and your life and your kids,
mm-hmm.
and how they have there's relationships as siblings, and to think about all the different relationships going on under one roof and that dynamic, and then you're trying to like do all the normal day-to-day stuff in between. So I don't know, that always kind of gets me.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't, like, I have one shot at this. And it's not like, it's a progression, you know? It's not like it all happens overnight. But
right.
Back to that, like, okay, I'm forming not me forming, but there's this individual who is their own soul and spirit and just being, and it's my job to guide them.
Yeah.
And I want to do it right.
Yeah.
So that they're set up to make good decisions and welcome, loving relationships. That's the biggest overwhelm for me.
Yeah.
But it's easy to kind of spiral with, I mean, I would do anything for them and work any job for them.
Totally.
To just make sure that they're okay.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So as far as like tips for the overwhelm, it's like to paraphrase what you're saying too, I think it's like, try not to spiral and try not to dip into that place mentally.
Biggest tip, okay, sorry, I got off track.
No, I love it.
Biggest tip is, and we talked about this, like the one day at a time thing
mm-hmm.
is great,
mm-hmm.
but thinking about Sunday when it's Wednesday, stressing about something that you have no control over, that you cannot even see, it just subtracts from
mm-hmm.
whatever's happening in the moment, and you'll miss it. You'll miss something.
Yeah.
I also thought about like the wellness, how we kind of all started off with wellness related and food related. Like, I will see some stuff on Instagram sometimes that's, why are you, and this is more for like disordered eating, and I hope I'm being polite when I'm
say it.
This.
We're ready for it.
Like, don't bash yourself for what you ate yesterday. Like, today, just like focus on what you're eating today. Like, kind of that kind of thing. You never, like, I would never go through the day and be like, what am I going to eat tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll get excited for a meal, or like, if you have a reservation at your favorite restaurant, that's different.
Yes.
But if you apply that to life,
planning your breakfast, lunch,
like,
and dinner. Yeah,
no,
that's
like, eat
stressful.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
And tomorrow, or just, deal with what's on your plate right now. Because that's what really derails you. The last thing I posted that I wrote was about that. Like, actually jumping ahead will pull you back under.
That's so beautiful. And that's something I will definitely take away from this conversation, because with some of what we were talking about with like mental health and postpartum anxiety and all this stuff, it is a lot living in the future or ruminating about the past, mostly future fears and that kind of stuff. And it does take you so much out of the present moment, and it's not the place to live. Like, it's not the place to focus on.
Yeah.
So I've really also been trying to just stay present. And it's like this morning I woke up and I first felt super overwhelmed, because that's just the feeling that's like enveloping me lately. But then I thought about my actual day ahead. My actual day ahead was to be with you and to do this podcast. And I've been looking forward to it for so long. And going to dinner with some friends tonight and spending time with Atticus. And it's like, what am I must be worried about the future, which is true. You know, thinking about all the other stuff on my plate, but I would have missed the joy of like being in the present moment today. And so that's just like a one day example of what you're talking about. Yeah. Just to say that I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, that's what's kind of beautiful about life, is that that's something everyone can relate to and connect on.
Yeah.
No, and everyone's day is going to be different.
Right. No, totally. Well, I love that tip. And then as far as, I really like what you were saying about, like, it's interesting, so many of us in this space did get started with wellness. And I remember your account many years ago on Instagram, it was like all food.
It was all
and
food,
so was mine.
Yeah.
And so like the transition of all of that, I feel, has been really cool to see for everybody in our space. But what has that been like for you, like to transition more into lifestyle and sharing your life?
Yeah, I felt pretty lucky. I feel like there was that before reels were a thing and social media changed so much. It was hard to do one or the other, like food or lifestyle. But I launched my blog when I hit 10,000 followers, and that's where I posted my first written piece. And that for me, I was like, I'm going to put everything on there. And then blogging, as you know, is just very time consuming and a lot. And I didn't have the mental space or the time to do that. So I just kind of started sharing life more on Instagram. And it's been lately more challenging, I'd say, because, again, of how content has shifted. And I just love, and I said this to you, like, if I had it my way, like, my entire page would just be black and white imagery with words. And I probably could do that, but I also love, I have so many different things that I love, and I do enjoy editing videos and making them, and could probably be less picky. And you know,
we both need to drop the perfectionism,
and I don't even think my stuff is perfect. That's the thing.
No, of course, but it's a
perfectionistic
attitude.
But it doesn't go your way the way you have in your head. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. So, and that's the truth of being a creative person. It's hard.
Kind of just letting, again, consistency is going to be more important than
Yes, absolutely.
That would be like, I think of this shit all day long, but that would be like, instead of eating the cucumber because you want to eat the cucumber, you're like going to look for the perfect cucumber first, which would be a waste of your time.
Yeah, totally. No, you're completely
like, as long
right.
as it's not like disgusting, just eat it and be done.
Yeah, you're good at these analogies. And speaking of Instagram, who are some of your favorite people to follow?
I love, oh gosh, this is not fair because I don't want to leave anyone out.
I know, just a few off the top of your head.
I'll say generally there are actually quite a handful of just photography, like these, I don't know, and I don't want to use the term influencer, but creators in Australia, and these women who just either have brands or are just really artistic that I love, and I think their content's really beautiful and inspiring, and of course they live in Australia, so it's like, okay, this is really
fun to see. Yes.
Fun to see. Olive Cook is one of them. I feel like I'm just not going to name any.
Yeah.
I mean, and then all the people that I have relationships with, like you, Olivia. Olivia's really transformed.
I know.
As we know, her videos are just
they're so
unreal.
good. I'm like, maybe Olivia needs to give me a lesson in filming and editing.
Yeah.
Like, it's been very cool to see her progression.
Blossom. Yep.
And she's killing it, and I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, me too. She's been very supportive for me over the years. So.
Yeah. You guys have such a close friendship.
We do. I miss her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've been following a lot of like random models, not, model, but like I like to follow people that their page is just like their for fun page, and they don't have to, or they have a brand again, so they're not really using it to monetize. It's just their personal page, but their eye is just really amazing and artistic. And then just fun accounts like interior accounts and some travel.
Yeah.
Just nature is really, I feel like if I lived in California or somewhere near the water, I'd have a field day with imagery.
I know.
The Midwest is really hard for me sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And sometimes when I do little day trips to places, I'm like, I should do this more.
Yeah.
And I should do it more. But you guys can just drive
I know.
to the beach.
Well, there's
and
something
it's like,
special about living by the beach. I think what you post from living in the Midwest is beautiful because you guys have seasons.
We do.
And your street looks very like, reminds me of New York, kind of.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really beautiful in other ways. But I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I do love it there. Like the pace is not, I don't know. I feel like we went to that coffee shop and I was like, I can't believe how many people are in here right now.
I know. I couldn't believe that either.
And
I'm
just,
like, we can't even get a table. I know.
So,
Welcome
I don't
to
ever
Los
pay for
Angeles.
parking.
I know. It's so funny. I know. I'm like paying the meter because it's such an LA thing. It's so funny. But I want to ask you some of the questions that I ask everyone who comes on.
Yeah.
Do you know your human design?
No.
Oh, you're going to send me your birth info and we're going to look up everything. I wonder what you are. I bet you're like a manifesting generator in human design.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to look it up later if we can get your birth info. If you could be in a room with 3 people, living or dead, who would they be?
Oh my gosh. I'm not good at this on the spot
I
stuff.
know.
My dad. Absolutely. Wow, I'm really bad at this. Can I say Chris Farley?
Yes.
That's so
anyone.
random.
No, people say anyone. They say Kim Kardashian, Marilyn Monroe, like anyone.
Chris Farley's, he has a stand-up I really like, and I just feel like he would be really fun to be in a room with. Yeah. I want to say Donald Hall. I started his book on the way here and was on the verge of tears the entire time. It's just about him talking about his wife, and it's really...
Wow.
And she gets sick, and he's taking care of her, and it's just exceptional writing.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a lot of life experiences that I've had. Like, there's nothing more beautiful to me than that sort of love and affection of how to really just adore someone.
I totally agree.
And it's admirable. So
that's so beautiful. I gotta read it.
You should.
I could cry just thinking about it.
Yeah, you'll cry within the first 10 pages, guaranteed.
Yeah. Wow.
It's worth it.
Wow. And what is the meaning of life to you?
Can I say blooming?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if that's the right term.
No, it's beautiful.
I don't know, that just is what comes to me. That there's so much, I don't want to use the word growth. I don't know. To bloom, like when you think about that or visualize it, whatever that looks like to you, with anything that you do or try or encounter, there's that opportunity to do that and to get there and finding it and allowing it to happen and letting it be colorful and, you know, whatever nourishment you need to make that happen. That's all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that visual too. Just the blooming.
The blooming.
It's a really good answer. You have a very poetic mind.
Thanks.
I really love that.
I feel crazy sometimes.
Likewise, I can relate. But no, the poetic mind is that's gonna land with people, the blooming for sure. And what's your morning routine?
Morning routine.
I know
not
you're
much of a routine.
But you're an early riser.
I do if I can. I love getting up early, sitting in the quiet. That's rare now. Sipping coffee in the dark with music on and just kind of like waiting for the kids to wake up. I don't know that I don't have that morning routine where I'm like doing, get up, wash your face, brush your teeth, that, and then just quiet in the morning before the day starts is really magic to me.
So magical. Well, this morning you did a cold plunge.
I did do a cold plunge this morning.
What was it like? Nuts. Your first cold plunge experience?
Yeah. Well, I got in and I couldn't breathe. Have you done one?
Yeah.
You can't breathe.
Yeah.
And I've done cryotherapy, but it's a different kind of water. In the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I felt amazing after.
Yeah.
And then I had to warm up, and it was cold today, windy, so that didn't really help.
Yeah.
But that feeling your blood moving is incredible.
Yeah.
I loved
It's like you can't get that feeling from anything else in my experience, not from caffeine. Like it just is this burst of amazing energy.
Burst is a good word.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sadly, I was told recently that I shouldn't do cold plunge right now because I have these adrenal kind of healing things and my body's not handling stress very well. And anyway, my sad story, because I will be cold plunging again whenever I can because I love the feeling.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. And then final question is, what are you excited about right now in your life?
What am I excited about? Life. And a lot. I'm excited about my personal life right now. I feel very grateful and lucky to be in a very loving chapter, and I don't feel, when we were talking about that spiraling, like, I don't know, I feel as calm as I could be, and I'm enjoying presence a lot. I feel lucky, so lucky to be experiencing a lot of presence, and no matter where I am or what I'm doing, I'm surrounded by people that I like.
Yes,
genuinely like them and appreciate them, and it's a busy season for sure, and an adjustment to working different hours and juggling everything, but I'm grateful that everyone's healthy, and I felt like for a while there was this finish line, if that makes sense, of like I have to like get somewhere.
There is no finish line.
And that just enjoying right now and doing what I can when I can. Yeah. And not stressing about the rest.
That's a very good reminder and realization. Wow. And where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Samantha in person. That's pretty much it.
Not on TikTok. Not on TikTok. Are you ever going to get on TikTok?
I don't know. I think I have like 3 videos of Maddox eating some food on there.
Yeah. TikTok's fun. I mean, it's a wild
I need a tutorial.
West,
I need to sit down with like a 17-year-old.
I know. That's what I did. My nieces, who had been on there for years before it became what it is now, they're like, you're doing it all wrong. When I started like doing some TikToks in 2020, and they're like, no. That is very embarrassing. You cannot curate like that. And they're like, you have to just be natural. Yeah. And I still certainly don't really know what I'm doing on there, but it is fun.
Yeah. Well, I think isn't that the beauty of the app? Like, you don't have to care.
Yeah, you don't. You just do silly things, and anything you think that will do well.
I've seen some of yours that you've cross-shared, and they're funny. Yeah,
we have fun. I think for me and Jonathan's personality, it's a very fitting app because he is really funny, and then I'm very silly, and people just don't really, you don't see that always on Instagram.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, it's a curated space.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's so fun. Well, this was so special. I'm so
special. Thank you.
honored to have this conversation with you. And I know that everyone listening is just going to be so inspired by everything that you have experienced and overcome and the blossoming that you have done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love you.
I love you so much. You're so special.